it still amazes me, that song. And I still get that kind of urge to fly around when I hear
And
it.
I still like watching her.
Yeah, but yeah, it was like they thought this is hilarious. You watch. Let's put this on and watch what she does.
It's good for kids to have some subversive stuff.
Yeah, and the novelty thing appeals to but real rockin' too, because is it John Spencer's kid Charlie was obsessed with that song Gizmo.
Oh, sure.
Which is rockin', but it's got a novelty thing to it too.
Yeah, Jimmy Heap.
Yeah,
I think there's a great danger that children, if they don't have novelty records, they can grow up and get a job, go to school, and then die and never become crazy or anything. You've got to be very careful.
Mad Magazine played the same role, I think, for
totally.
Oh yeah,
what me worry.
thousands of people.
Yeah. I like when my dimples turned to pimples this year. That's a good one. I got a nose job. That's one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, a little cardboard record. Yeah, no, that's amazing. Oh, any records that you've been jonesing for forever? That
I think we've got what we know about, so it's still anything new is a surprise. There's less surprises, but now we haven't caught up. When we're in Pittsburgh, there's this label, Itsy, that puts out these CDs, so we haven't caught up on that. We own about half of that series, and their last time they had more, so we had to get them all.
Oh, right.
Some of the Mad Mike, the DJ.
Oh, he's my hero, yeah.
Which is how we became aware of Goo Goo Muck, was from a Mad Mike LP compilation.
I'd love to get an original copy of Scream by Ralph Nielsen and the Chancellors. That would be great.
Yeah, I think they're like 2 copies.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, Mad Mike, I'm glad you mentioned him. He's a total hero, and this relates to Mad Daddy, and that Mad Mike was able to take these weird-ass records like Goo Goo Muck or Camel Walk by the Saxons and turn them into regional hits. And it's just mind-blowing that he'd have a record hop and 5,000 kids would show up and dance around to Camel Walk.
More than for an artist. They wouldn't turn that, like they said, not for the Rolling Stones or for something, but for him to DJ that. And that's why, like back when the hits were regional, like the Sonics, they were popular in the Northwest and Pittsburgh because of Mad Mike.
Yeah.
And Swamp Rats were covering Sonic song, just because of Mad Mike.
Oh, I had a chance to see Mad Mike do some shows over the years, and very eccentric individual, but a total hero. He had records squirreled everywhere, and very secretive about the identity of the records. But he had the total unique ear, and again, he found that unifying thread between a vocal group ballad and some wigged out, 3 carburetors, just oddball stuff.
Yeah, it's like some people, like disc jockeys, they're like a filter, like they're filtering all this cosmic information in a way that us masses can understand.
I think they were some of the earliest computers, actually, disc jockeys. They're filtering out all the stuff like Snooky Lanson and stuff like that. That was going into the shredder or whatever they had, and somehow somebody like Mad Mike, just the cream rose to the top there.
Well, there were also that mischievous influence, like Mad Magazine or the novelty records. Preteens could tune in and hear someone who wasn't selling insurance or doing what their dad did. It was like some wigged out guy screaming and having fun, and the party never ended.
Yeah.
Party doesn't have to end. I mean, I guess that's one of the things I really admire about you guys is that, you got inspired by the music and movies and stuff, and it wasn't just a diversion. It was the thing.
Yeah.
There's some about R&B and rock and roll, the early stuff. Now you say rock and roll, and that could mean a sale at a car lot or something. It means anything now, But real rock and roll, the stuff based on the blues when it first started, that music is so timeless. It'll never get old. 500 years from now, I think people will be rolling around on their pod stems or whatever happens, and they'll be listening to these same records we're talking about right now.
Well, they exude an incredible sense of style, and once you hear the musical Lynn Twins, you're forever transformed. I mean, do it like Sparkle Moore. Choose her as your guardian and savior, wherever she may be.
Yeah.
deliver.
The musical lens. Now there's one that I'd love to find too.
Oh yeah, on Blue Feather. Yeah, that's a tough one. But
and I didn't
we
tell
have
Alexa.
one, but we don't have the one.
You didn't know. I just found out Cordell Jackson just passed away.
yeah,
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad.
I played a set of her stuff last week. She was great. I'd gotten a couple crazy letters from her a few years ago,
Beautiful
and
person.
yeah. Did you ever see the great film Daniel Rose did of her? Kind of like a video of her shooting pool and playing and driving around in her matching canary yellow Cadillac
Oh,
and
my God.
driving up to her canary yellow
Would
house
match
and
her blonde hair.
yeah. Oh, she's great. It's totally inspiring
Yeah, very.
to see people like that again who've made it a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's not something that stops at 23.
As you know, once you've been infected by this stuff, there's no cure. It's true, isn't it? I don't think radiation would help. It might make it worse.
Yeah, no. I mean, once you dig it, you can't quit. There's no quota.
Thrill after thrill.
Wild for kicks.
And the kicks keep on coming. And while I got you here, I got to ask you about a mutual hero we share. Of course, the radio legend Pete Myers, best known as Mad Daddy. And Lux, you were able to hear Mad Daddy, and he cast a long shadow over
I
your
actually
life.
talked to him on the phone when he left. Cleveland, the week that he left to go to New York to be snubbed. I called him on the phone and I told him that I was the head of his fan club in Stowe, Ohio, and he believed that and talked to me. I actually had a little 3-inch tape recording of it, that 3-inch reel to reel that I recorded with my friends, and my parents threw it away. They were afraid that this was going to be a bad influence. It was very
Always
insightful.
They were on the
But
money.
He talked to me. He talked to me on the phone for like a couple of minutes in rhyme, just like on the radio show. And then afterwards, he said, "Look, I'm going to get the operator back. You can't afford this. You shouldn't be." And he said, "I'm going to pay for this call."
Wow.
He was just, and that actually happened, that just like that, and it didn't show up on my friend's. But we thought we'd have to explain that later, and it didn't show up.
What a hero.
Yeah.
Now, what is it about Ohio? Because not only did it spawn, Screamin' Jay Hawkins out of Cleveland and all those great garage band records and instrumental records on scads of oddball labels. Then Alan Freed came to prominence there, Mad Daddy, and then you had Goulardi. Well,
I think it's because it's the asshole of the earth. And I think that those kids know there's no way out. Don't believe anything anybody. I think that's where the counterculture of the '60s started. Was probably the Goulardi. Those kind of people. The kids were listening to that. Waiting to hear the next out of control bad thing happen that they didn't see anywhere else. And those guys delivered. That's their whole thing. Like Mad Daddy, when he locked himself in the control room for 2 weeks and played some horrifyingly bad record, they just let him do it. They didn't even stop him. He just went on and on and on forever. And he could do it because they couldn't stop him, because it was the most highest rating that they ever had in broadcasting history there. Everybody would not leave their radio. He's just standing in there ranting, endlessly.
I mean, make no mistake about it, the stuff truly was subversive. People have a Happy Days notion of the 50s and early 60s and malt shops. Yeah. This is pretty outrageous stuff.
These are my memories of the 50s. I hear people talking about how uptight the 50s were and how it was so square and how things changed in the 60s and stuff. I thought it started in the 50s, with rock and roll, with white kids loving black musicians and stuff like that. Before that, it was like, it was racism everywhere. It was this is the beginning of the world as we know it today. Was starting then. It didn't start, in 1968.
And not to hammer on a conspiracy theory, but again, it was all these small record labels and radio stations and local TV stations could do kind of weird stuff. The opportunity existed, and some of them exploited it.
Yeah.
Totally.
And most of them were talking so fast and such drive talk, nobody knew what they were saying anyhow, except the kids.
But it's odd about Ohio and Cleveland, because even when we were there in the 70s, Kid Leo, a WMMS, it's, wasn't as wild as all else we've been talking about, but compared probably to what was happening elsewhere in the nation, was really good, cutting edge. He'd play like an entire album when it came out.
I mean, that's where the first rock and roll show happened, was at the Cleveland Arena. And like they expected 3,000 kids to show up, and 30,000 kids showed up, so it didn't happen. It was a riot instead, and they had to cancel it and have it, a month later or something like that.
That's fantastic. And to return to Ghoulardi a little bit, did you have a chance to watch him or?
Oh, every week, everybody I knew, you had to be home in time to watch Ghoulardi. It was just out of control. But Mad Daddy, you were talking about the wavy thing around his head and everything. Mad Daddy actually started that before Ghoulardi. That wavy thing, and when he was a horror movie host on WJW, but he was a bat, so it was just his head that was wavy thing around the oscillating around the outside of the screen, and then his head upside down on the TV screen with a light on him, and because he was a bat hanging upside down.
He also
you'd stand there and watch him, and it was an upside down head on your TV set. It was real. That was really amazing.
And there's an old ad from an air check where he sold Batty Bucks, where kids could get shoes.
I had a
pair
pair.
of shoes. You had a pair of Batty Bucks?
He had Batty Bucks.
Wow.
They were like brown hush puppies, but they had a big black bat on the front of them, right? With the laces went through the bat.
This is something you got to sell at your shows. Have some
Maybe we
Cramps
should,
Batty
we
Bucks.
should
Yeah.
make reach into the Batty Bucks.
Yeah, that's when I first became a star at school with my Batty Bucks.
That's great. It's like terrorize the fifth graders.
And there were Ghoulardi shakes, didn't you say? Were like
Oh, I
those
was
the
constantly
Manners.
sick from the Ghoulardi,
the Manners.
the big Ghoulardi milkshakes.
Well, they were blue, right?
They were
dyed in
kind
blue
of
or-
fluorescent green, blue-green.
Uh-huh. So I've got one of those
Yeah.
old Manners mugs, and you could see through the bottom of it.
Mm-hmm.
So any other radio heroes over the years?
Those were the two big
The two
ones.
biggies,
Yeah, there was nothing spectacular in Sacramento. There was,
Right.
Johnny Hyde was the local guy. It wasn't that great. And I guess the other interesting ones we've heard was later was the Dewey Phillips.
Oh,
was
sure.
really cool.
The pill-fueled
And who's
frenzy.
Jazz Bill Collins. That we weren't exposed to growing up.
Also, Tim Conway was there with Ghoulardi at that same time and everything. So he was doing some pretty wacky stuff. Now, it was called Tom Conway then, but he was doing some crazy stuff. And there was another disc jockey, I can't remember his name, but he'd make up these long, elaborate stories. I can't remember his name, but it was really great. He'd have a story about the kid that was going to Washington to these things would go on for 2 minutes about a kid going to Washington, and he was so excited about getting to the Washington Monument to see the Washington Monument, but you had to sign in before you went in there, and these two nuns were signing the book and everything, and the kid was trying to run past him. His mother was holding him and everything like that, and the kid says, "I want to go, Mom. I want to go, Mom." And the mother said to him, "Wait till the nuns sign, Shelley." And he'd do dumbass things like that. He'd just make this stuff up on and on and on. But I can't even remember his name.
Wow. Now, you guys have always been big movie fans, horror films, monster movies. That's informed a lot of what the Cramps do.
I think those things are like little nightmares. They're usually made by one or two people and who had the idea and filmed it, and they most of the time don't make any sense on normal people's level, but they make so much sense. It's like looking at some kind of a real Dada or a surrealist painting or something. On some other level, it makes much more sense than anything you encounter in normal everyday life.
I guess I might be considered a less discerning film fan, because if there were some good lines of dialogue and a weird character actor in a movie, I'm happy. I'm glad I'm watching.
You've got to love Blood Feast just for the line where the two detectives are standing there. I remember, and they're looking at each other, and then the one looks down. Supposedly he's looking down at the desk and says, "Looks like another long, hard one."
Bill Kerwin at his best.
Yeah.
Yeah,